you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lapierre coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lapierre, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Tuesday, December the 17th. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast. We appreciate it. And you're watching live on YouTube and live on Facebook. It's brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Playground, ring in 2025 with glitter, groove, and glam at Playground's New Year's Eve party. Get your party bracelet and access all the excitement across every floor. Starting at 5 p.m., bracelets are required for entry. For just $20, you'll receive $20 in free play and a glass of Prosecco to toast the new year. Bracelets are also required for poker action on the third floor. Get ready for an unforgettable night of music, dancing, and exclusive gaming fun. Celebrate in style only at Playground. And also brought to you in part by of course, Bittt TV. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light, ultra refreshing. What a night, Montreal Canadiens fans were privileged to tonight. The Montreal Canadiens, they were a team that has been blown out on several occasions. Well, tonight it was the Buffalo Sabres that were blown out at the Bell Center, and blown out they were by a score of 6-1. The Canadiens got a goal from Slavkovsky, a goal from Armia, a goal from Josh Anderson, and a hat trick from Patrik Laine. Yes, a hat trick from Patrik Laine. And you know what? Do they love him in Montreal. We're going to discuss it. We have two amazing guests tonight. This is... I expect this to be an amazing Habs post-game edition of the Sick Podcast tonight with former Montreal Canadian Maxim Lapierre and Pierre McGuire. It's time for your McGuire Report.
The McGuire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
And Vago has been open 23 years. Not many restaurants open that long. Private dining rooms for any occasion, birthday engagements, corporate meetings, plenty of free parking after 6. Open Monday to Saturday evenings and lunch Tuesday to Friday. Fresh quality ingredients, old world Italian classics, and new Italian. Come see Tommaso, the most popular man in Westmount. And he's, of course, Angelo's partner, and he's at the front of the house. Pierre McGuire, how are you? I don't hear Pierre. Is it me? But I don't hear Pierre.
Hi, Tony. Yeah, everything is fine. I'll be right back.
We'll check out what's happening. I can definitely hear Max Lapierre. That I can tell you. Max,
hello, guys. How are you?
Doing extremely well. How are you?
Phenomenal. Nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you. It's actually I didn't cut my hair. I just wet it. Like, as you know, I just wet it. I haven't cut it. Yeah, but when I wet it, it looks shorter, and when I don't wet it, it looks really, really long, and it looks like I need a haircut. All right. Patrik Laine. Up until tonight, he had scored 3 power play goals in 3 different games. And when he did, they won all those games. And when he didn't score, they lost. Tonight, he scored 1, he scored 2, he scored 3. He actually entered the record books in Montreal Canadiens history, becoming the first ever player in Montreal Canadiens history to score his first 6 goals on the power play. He said after the game, it'd be nice to get one 5-on-5. He says, but that's just the way it's going right now. He thought he had a goal earlier in the game when it rang off the post, and then he countered back with 3 good ones. You know, we knew he was a lethal shooter, Max. The way he shoots the puck, we were talking about it with Agnello and Sammy and Master Control right before the show. It almost seems like he doesn't even try. It's effortless, his shot.
Spectacular. And we're noticing right now what a superstar player can do during a game. It doesn't matter. This is when we need to be fair with the way we analyze a game. It doesn't matter if he makes mistakes on the ice. When you put 3 goals in, you did your job. You can go home and say, I helped the team tonight. And I think it was the second goal. Like, in my head, as soon as he got the pass, I'm like, too late, no chance. The goalie is going to be square and is going to make the save with his belly. No, it goes in the corner. That's I don't know how you can shoot the puck that way. For me, there's 4 guys maybe that can do that. There's Matthews, Ovechkin, Laine, and maybe Stamkos. Like, do you have anybody else in mind that can shoot that type of one-timer? Like,
he's got an amazing one. Look, I'm going to say this. As far as I've been covering the Habs, out of all the players they've had, he's the one that when he's got a little bit of time and space and the puck's coming over, the second that he's going to shoot, I'm saying to myself, like you just said, goal. Yeah. Like Cole Caufield has a really, really good shot.
Not even close.
But when Caufield shoots, like, I don't say goal. Like, every time Laine shoots, I'm like, this one's going in. It's going in. It's going in. And it seems to be going in more often than not. He's now has 6 goals in 7 games. But his shot is amazing. And it's almost like the Sabres knew the puck was going to Laine. It's almost like the goalie knew the puck was going to Laine, but the goalie just couldn't get to it. But that Sabres team, I can't wait to also talk to Pierre, who should be joining me in about a minute here.
Yeah.
Because their owner came in. He came in, Max, just to address the team. His private plane landed and left again like 2 hours later. Like, all he did was go to the Bell Center, talk to the GM, talk to the coach, talk to the players. And based on some reporting and what we're hearing that he told them, I have confidence in all of you. The answer's in the room. 19 seconds later, they're down by a score of 1-0. Do we have Pierre McGuire?
Hey, boys.
Pierre, welcome back, Pierre. We were just saying the owner came in specifically to talk to the team, Pierre. No. 19 seconds later, they're down 1-0. And this was embarrassing, the effort the Buffalo Sabres put up tonight, Pierre.
So I've been in the league 35 years. And I've never heard of anything like this. And first of all, I don't know who thought it was a good idea for an owner to fly into Montreal, the most visible city in the NHL, and to have the owner come in and speak. It makes no sense at all. And then they don't practice. This is a team that needs practice. You don't have to skate them into the ice, but they need practice. And you don't think those guys were tight? Max knows. He's been in dressing rooms. Max, in all your life, did you ever have an owner come in and talk to your team before a big game?
No, it happened once in my life that the owner came in the dressing room, and it was in Vancouver after Game 7 when we lost, just to tell us, like, heads up, boys.
So, Tony, I will tell you the owners that I've worked for. I worked for Edward DeBartolo Sr. in Pittsburgh. I worked for Howard Baldwin and Morris Bellsberg in Pittsburgh. I worked for Richard Gordon in Hartford. I worked for an amazing owner in Ottawa. And my last time in Ottawa, I worked for Eugene Melnick. Never once did any of those owners ever go into the dressing room to talk or into a meeting room to talk to the players before a game. Never once. Never once.
That's a PR move. He wanted the Sabres fan base to know that he cares.
That's fine. He does care.
Yeah.
I made this point on my podcast today with Jimmy Murphy. You know how I know he cares? Look at how much money he's sunk into the Buffalo Sabres. Look at how much money he's sunk into the city of Buffalo. Max, you've been there numerous times. Think about how much money he's put into arenas around Buffalo. He built the arena at Penn State for $86 million. He owns the Buffalo Bills. He's building a new stadium there. Like, you can go down the line. He cares. He cares about the community. He's saved downtown Buffalo.
Yeah, but
the money he's put in.
I got a question for you guys. Like, and you've been on the management side of it. When does the owner or the GM just looks at his team and says, we're not going the right direction. It's been a long time. Like our team, like I'm looking at their team and it's a little bit like Montreal. Like I'm seeing great players, great young guys they had energy tonight, Buffalo. Like they made a lot of mistakes, but they were skating. Some people were skating out there and were giving an effort. That doesn't mean you get results, but I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it well because sometimes my English, obviously I get an accent, but a star player for me needs to be like Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like good players that have won the Stanley Cup, they always have two personalities on the ice. Just think of Ovechkin. It's the easiest one to explain. He's a goal scorer. He's a skill guy. When he doesn't have his A game, what does he become? A monster, like you used to say all the time. He hits everyone. He's physical. He's disturbing. Brad Marchand, same thing. Skill guy, it doesn't work tonight, becomes a shit disturber. Disturb the whole ice. People are taking penalties on him. It's like the list is long. Like, and I don't see that in both teams. Thompson is a great player. Tonight, he didn't have his game. No show.
So what Max just said, Tony, is so really important to understand. When I was coaching in Pittsburgh, we had Brian Trottier, and Brian would educate everybody because nobody else outside of Joey Mullen or Paul Coffey had ever won the Cup. And he educated guys what they have to do. So if you don't have your A game, you got to become what Max just said. You got to start a lot of trouble. And it worked. Our guys learned so much, whether you were Kevin Stevens or Mark Recchi or Jaromir Jagr or Ronnie Francis. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter who you were. You learned. And Max is spot on when he says that. 100%.
And you get another type of personality too, like O'Reilly or Patrice Bergeron. They weren't physical or anything, but they were specialists defensively. Like when Bergie was going on in a game and he wasn't feeling he had a good shot, or good hands, or good skating, he was perfectly positioned every single shift. No mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Look, we're definitely going to talk about the Canadiens tonight because Lord knows we gave it to them when they were giving up 6 goals and 7 goals and 8 goals and 9 goals. But you know, I had to start with the Buffalo Sabres. Well, after starting with Patrik Laine, of course, I had to go to the Sabres. This is the worst team that I've seen this year in the National Hockey League. I mean, I know they're 4 points up on was it San Jose and Chicago, I think, but who have a game in hand, by the way. But on Nashville and Chicago, pardon me. But this is the worst team that I've seen in the NHL this year. They've lost 11 games in a row. Pierre, before we move to the Canadiens, what's going to happen in Buffalo? I mean, do you see them making a GM change? Do you see them making a coaching change? Do you see them making both?
No, but I was really pained. And Max knows this from all his years of service. There's certain guys you really respect around the league. I respect Lindy Ruff. You know, I grew up in coaching with Lindy Ruff. He was an assistant to Roger Nielsen when I was a head coach in the league. I saw him take the right steps to become a very effective and very good head coach. When I watched that press conference after the game in Toronto on Sunday, I felt bad. And you know what? In the NHL, Max can tell you, nobody feels sorry for anybody. But I felt bad for him because he's been given a roster that, to Max's point, and I totally agree, if guys aren't scoring, they don't know how to adjust their game to become guys that can help affect the outcome of a game. And I think that's really important. They don't have an identity. Max, they don't play hard. They don't play mean. They don't play nasty. They just don't have an identity. And that's troublesome. It's hard to watch that.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of players like playing in the NHL. This is the issue there. Like whatever team you take in the NHL who are in the playoffs, you're talking about identity as a team, but I would say even further as a line or as a D pair, like first line, second line, third line, fourth line. You don't even make if you don't follow the Buffalo Sabres, you don't make the difference when they go on the ice. If you don't know the names, you're just like another line is out there, you know?
Yeah,
right.
but you know what, Pierre? I have a question. You talked about Lindy Ruff, right? We know that when it comes to experience, I mean, he's top 3 and top 4 in the National Hockey League in terms of games coached, but for a head coach in the National Hockey League. But correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but coaches going back for their second stint, I mean, it's usually not a good idea, is it?
I don't know. If you were the Montreal Canadiens and you could have got Scotty Bowman back, you would have taken him back.
I hear you, yeah, but they didn't get Scotty Bowman back. But I hear you.
They're certain, like Pat Quinn. Pat Quinn would have been a good coach a second time around. A lot of places. Pat Burns would have been a good coach a second timer. I coach against a lot of these guys. Like I'm just a Jacques Lemaire. Like there are a lot of guys you can go back. I don't buy that, Tony, and I say that with no disrespect.
No, none taken, Pierre. None taken. But
the thing I'd say, and this is to Max's point, if Lindy Ruff is as good a coach as I think he is, and I think he's a really good coach, he brings a certain persona that they don't have in Buffalo. The problem is the roster doesn't have the players that can fit into the persona he wants to create.
So let's take a look at that roster now. Let's bring up the Buffalo Sabres lineup tonight before we get to the Montreal Canadiens lineup. Tage Thompson as your number 1 centerman. Dylan Cousins as your number 2. That's not bad. Your wingers, Benson and Tuck on the first line, Quinn and Patrik on the second line. McLeod with Kulich, who, by the way, was drafted a couple of picks after the Canadiens had picked, and that's the year of the Slafkovsky draft, which is right after Philip Michar. He's in the National Hockey League, Kulich. And Zucker, who they went to acquire for his speed. Krebs, Melanston, and Obe Kubel. On defense, Samuelson, Power, Byram, and Yoki Haru. Gilbert and Clifton. And by the way, that Samuelson can hit, Pierre. I think you would know a little bit about the...
I coached his father. His father was an unbelievable warrior. I loved his dad. I still talk to his dad. I think the world of the family.
Yeah, Luukkonen started in goal, and Reimer ended up finishing. Scratches were Greenway and Bryson. For the Montreal Canadiens, Suzuki with Slafkovsky and Caufield, Dach with Laine and Newhook, Dvorak with Gallagher and Anderson, Evans with Armia and Heineman. On defense, Hudson, Matheson on the right side, Gouli, Barron, Jack-Eye, Savard, and Samuel Montembeault was in goal. Guys, once again, 19 seconds into the game, if we can bring up the scoring, 19 seconds into the game, Jake Evans picks up a pass from Heineman. He gains some speed into the offensive zone. He takes a shot. It just misses. It bounces off the boards. That's what we call the hometown, the hometown bounce, I guess. And it bounces. It lands right on Armia's stick, who Krebs gave him some time and space, wasn't able to tie him up, and he scores. And then after that, it looked like Patrik Laine had got a goal, but it went off the post. Josh Anderson hit a goal post in tonight's hockey game. Newhook hit a post in tonight's hockey game. I think there were others. I think the Canadiens hit 4 posts in tonight's game. But anyway, Patrik Laine on the power play is able to get his first goal of the game. Assists go to Slafkovsky, and Slafkovsky passes the puck. I think it went from Caufield to Slafkovsky to New Suzuki with a cross-ice pass. Pierre, Patrik Laine scored all 3 goals tonight in what used to be Cole Caufield's office. That was his spot on the power play. Is it just a question of you can only have one guy there, and they've chosen to go with the guy with the better shot and the better goal scoring ability?
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, I mean, he's won a Rocket Richard trophy. You know, Cole hasn't won that yet. Max played in the 2010 Eastern Conference playoffs against the Washington Capitals, and they had a guy named Alexander Ovechkin, who we talked about before. Roman Hamrlik and Yaro Spacek, and Maxi, you know, you were a big part of the penalty kill. You guys did an amazing job. I think it's a big reason why you won that playoff series against Washington. But you fronted Ovechkin. Your team fronted him. I don't get what these teams do. Like, nobody's in Laine's shot avenue. They're never in the avenue, Max.
No, exactly. And correct me if my memory is wrong, but after that round, when we beat Washington, I think that's the year after. No, they didn't get Oshie the year after, because I played in St. Louis with him. No, so that's not good. But my point is the options you have on the PP. Tonight, it's tough to cover. I know he's the most dangerous, options on the ice, but like, you got to watch Caufield, you got to watch Suzuki, you got to watch Slafkovsky, you got to watch Hudson, you know. So at one point, we're starting to see a good power play in Montreal, but you're so right, because they did block the shot once, but it hurt, and then they stopped blocking it. And again, it comes back to the point where we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Who are the Buffalo Sabres? Because David Savard or Amerlik or Spacek, these guys, they're going to block it 50 times. They don't care.
Yeah.
And if they break their leg, they're going to be out of the game, and somebody else is going to do it. So if you look at the lineup in Buffalo, that's the issue. Like, they're skilled, but you played the game. You look at this lineup, let's say they make the playoff this year. You're not at home the night before saying, oof, this one is going to hurt. It's going to be a long, painful one. No chance. Nobody scares anyone.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the guy who led everyone in block shots tonight is Montreal Canadiens defenseman Caden Gouli, who blocked 7 shots. And guys, if I can add to that Hamrlik and Spacek blocking shots, I believe there was one more player who blocked a ton in that series. Hal Gill?
Yeah.
Hal Gill, right?
Hal did, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. He blocked a lot of shots. And Maxim Lapierre said Yaroslav Spacek, and pardon me,
Halak.
Yaroslav Halak, and yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That's the year, of course. The Canadiens knocked them off in 7. They won Game 7 by a score of 2-1. Then they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 7 in Pittsburgh as well, before bowing out to the Philadelphia Flyers in 5 games. All right, back to the scoring we go. Second period. Look at this. Dylan Cousins narrows the lead. By the way, his name, Pierre, has been coming up in some rumors as of late.
Yeah.
You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. You can understand if the Buffalo Sabres would want to get rid of some long-term contracts. But at the same time, and this is a hefty one, he makes $7.1 million, which if he produces the way he does in the last 2 years, it's a lot of money. If he produces the way he did 3 years ago, it's not a lot of money. But Pierre, should the Buffalo Sabres be looking at moving, if they can, a 23-year-old Dylan Cousins, who could be a second-line centerman on most teams in the National Hockey League? Correct me if I'm wrong.
A lot of GMs will be salivating at the opportunity of picking him up. I can't see why this would make sense. And Max knows when you trade a player, what are you getting back? You better be getting something back that's better. I just don't know that they're going to get something back that's better. And I know they got prospects, and I know what they got in Rochester. I watch the Rochester Americans play a lot, but they don't have anybody as good as him. I can tell you that right now. They just don't. So I don't know where they go with this. I mean, Tage Thompson's a legit 40 to 50 goal guy. He is. He's a legit 40, 50 goal player. But I think Dylan Cousins can be a 35 to 40 goal player. For whatever reason, it's not working right now.
He's the one player who has guts too. Like on their team, he's built for playoffs. So we've been talking about the group as a unit, but Cousins is a heck of a hockey player. And if he's on the market, I'll tell you something. Montreal better call and offer something, because the guy has got character. The guy is a great hockey player. Like, it doesn't matter if he has 100 points. We were talking about having 2 personalities. He's got that.
I totally agree. His nickname is the workhorse from Whitehorse. He brings the heat, man. I'm telling you, he's a good player.
100%.
Yeah, the Buffalo Sabres used to have Jack Eichel, and they traded him. They used to have
Sammy Reinhart's pretty good, Tony.
Ryan O'Reilly, and they traded him. They used to have Simon Reinhart, and they traded him. They used to have Linus Ullmark, who's not there anymore. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, if I'm any team in the National Hockey League, I call the Buffalo Sabres and I ask about their players. Jeez, it's unbelievable, the players. Now, look, you trade Ryan O'Reilly, who wins the Stanley Cup in St. Louis. You get Tage Thompson back. I think you got back like a really interesting piece. I get it. But other than that, I mean, the other guys, this is just terrible. Okay, the second period. Let's bring back up the game sheet again, or the score sheet. Slavkovsky, who he was a very intelligent play, guys. Cole Caufield takes a shot. The save is made. The goalie is basically not covering his post. Slavkovsky recognizes that, and he says, you know what, I'm going to try and bank it off him and see if it goes in. And it did. And so he was able to smile. He hasn't smiled in a while, back playing on the line with Suzuki and Caufield, of course. Patrik Laine on the power play again, this time set up by Lane Hudson. And then Patrik Laine for the Hatrik, set up by Lane Hudson again. Pierre, what was I telling you that Lane Hudson should be quarterback in that power play? What was I telling you, Pierre? Tell us, Pierre. Tell us.
Yeah, I think you know what I've been telling you for a while. You know what's interesting? I'm so glad Max Lapierre is with us tonight, Tony, because I got to ask him a question.
Yeah.
He played with a guy that was really good, Andrei Markov. How would you compare Markey to what Lane does?
That's a good question. I think Markey obviously had a better shot, that's for sure. But Markey always had the play that nobody else had in their head, you know? Like you would make a pass and you were like, what is he doing? And then, wow, like nobody's seen it in the old building. Just, is it dissuasive, the right word? Like what's the right word here? You know, when you do something that nobody is expecting, like.
Yeah.
Keep
going. You're good.
It doesn't matter the word. Fuck. It's just the finding the open space. Like, you know, like if you compare like
deception.
Thank you very much, Pierre. When you compare to elite in the NHL, like McGuire or Chris Letang when he was in his prime, these guys were just skilled to another level. I think Markey and Hudson are smart to another level. Like the way they manage the game, and they're so quick. Like they don't want the puck 5 seconds under tape. They want to make the move right away. And I feel like they're normally, most of the time, the play they make right away is not even creating a chance right now. It's the next play that creates a chance. So they're setting up their teammate to make another nice play. And I think they're just really spectacular on the PP, the way they're thinking the game.
So Maxie, you agree that Lane Hutson should be the power play quarterback on the first power play?
100%. And I know like it's tough because Madison had a really good season last year, and it's tough to move a veteran. But like I was saying to Tony earlier this year, when Kel McGuire arrived in Colorado, they didn't care who was there on the first PP. They just tossed them out, and it's time to move on. Like this is how you like. Just look at what they're doing with Cole Caufield. They didn't say we'll put Patrik Laine in his spot whenever we're gonna feel it's time. They just put him there, and it's working.
Pierre, the guy in Colorado, Tony, was Sammy Girard.
Yeah,
Maxie's spot on. You're spot on that.
Pierre, as you know, of course, Max is a former teammate of Alex Burrows, who ran the Montreal Canadiens power play last year. Yep. And when the power play wasn't working, I would give it to Burrows because I knew that it would rile Max up, right? And when the power play was working, Max would put a picture of Burrows with like a crown on his head type of thing, right? But look, we could you imagine Burrows watching that tonight? Because look, he's still consulted he's watching. Could you imagine Burrows watching that saying, you know what? One more year and I would have coached Lane Hutson and Patrik Laine on the power play.
Yeah, he must be 100%.
His hair.
So your point is well taken. I can give you an example of that. I was in Pittsburgh and we had a pretty good power play in 91 and 92. I mean, we were pretty tough to top. We won 2 Stanley Cups. And I went to Hartford and I tried it at the beginning. I tried to run the same kind of sequencing on our power plays. And I couldn't do it. It wasn't because the players weren't any good, but they weren't Mario Lemieux, and they weren't Larry Murphy, and they weren't Paul Coffey, and they weren't Joey Mullen, and they weren't Kevin Stevens. I didn't have anybody like that. So I had to change. We had to change. And I completely agree with you. I think if Alex had the same kind of artillery that they have now, he could have still coached this team. I totally believe that.
Yeah. You know what's amazing is that Pierre just rattled off like 5 amazing names. And we didn't get to Jaromir Jagr. Think about that.
Well, he wasn't on our first power play.
Yeah,
think about that.
That's unreal.
That's unreal. It really is unreal. Josh Anderson, guys, really pleased with his efforts this year. Scores a goal again. So now it's a couple of games where he's on the board. And, I'm sure they'd still like to see his goals up. And he's going to have a really hard time, of course, producing to that contract of $5.5 million. But here's a guy who has found a role on the team.
Yeah, and it took time, honestly. And it's tough as a player because one day in the NHL, you have to change everything to stay there. And I think he accepts his new role. I think he takes a lot of pride with the PK. He's playing great defensively. He's blocking shot. He's skating. He's using his body. I think he's proud of his new role, and it's working for him. At one point, like if you look at yourself where you're at in your career and you're like, I'm not a 25, 30 goal scorer anymore. Well, I got to help this team. I think he's doing a great job. I was all over him last year. This year, you can't say anything. Him, Gallagher, even Dvorak now is playing better. These guys are playing the way they're supposed to play in their new roles.
You know what's great about what he just said, Tony? What Max just said is so smart. Because I when he first came to Montreal, I said, this is a home run. This guy's going to be so popular in Montreal. And for whatever reason, he lost his hands. Max, he just lost his hands.
Oh, yeah, trust me, I know how to lose your hands.
I know you know. I know you know. But for whatever reason, this guy must have had a long talk with himself in the mirror because he's a completely different player this year. He cares about the team. Now, I didn't like what he did the other night. When he whacked the kid in the face with a stick, Owen Pickering, it was stupid. It was not smart. But, okay, he was passionate. He was emotional. I get it. But he's playing a lot better, to Max's point, Tony. I totally agree with that.
He did a couple of things thus far this season, not to be an advocate for fighting, but he was sick of the way the game was going in Washington. He was sick of Tom Wilson going out and hitting everything that moved. And you know what? He said, enough's enough. You're going to fight me. And he got the better of Tom Wilson. I mean, Josh Anderson is a big boy, and he's a strong boy. When the wires touch, look out. And another thing he did was he said to Jacob Trouba, we're going to do this right away because I remember the last time you played us and you concussed Justin Barron. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm not happy about it. So it's time for you to pay the price. And he made him pay the price. Josh Anderson has shown a professional pride this year with a lot more consistency than he did a year ago. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. But guys, the story again tonight is it's several occasions now where we see Patrik Laine get called out to be the first star. Once, okay, they kind of gave it to him on his first game that he played. You know what? We'll give it to you. Montembeault was the best player on the night, and they wanted the fans to give Patrik Laine the ovation that he deserved. But, there's a buzz in the arena, like the excitement. We talked about it before, that every time he's going to shoot the puck, we have a feeling that he's going to score. When was the last time we had that from a Montreal Canadiens player? Like on a full season, barring injury, this guy's a 50-goal scorer. The Canadiens haven't had that since Stéphane Richer did it twice in a 3-year span back in the early 90s. Or late 80s.
I was going to say Richer. I was going to tell you Richer because I used to have to draw up game plans to try to beat him. That's probably the last guy. I know Savage had some big numbers early in his career in Montreal, but nothing like Stéphane Richer. I'd say Richer's the last guy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, guys, and you've been hearing, obviously, during your career, so many things about the Montreal market and the fans and the pressure and the media. Would you say, like, Patrik Laine is the opposite? The story this year, this guy feels welcome in a great hockey organization, and you can tell that when he saw the crowd the first time and felt that everyone was behind him, you knew that when he was going to come back after the injury, he was going to score every game.
So this is so well said, because you know what I think this does? This opens up an avenue for free agents to come that wasn't there before. And I love what Max said, because that's 100% true. When he gave his statement after the first game, I've never experienced anything like that. This is a guy that won the Rocket Richard Trophy. He played in Winnipeg. And Max can tell you, Tony, I don't know if you've been in the building in Winnipeg. Those people are on top of you. It's not like it's a little soft place. They're on you hard.
Yep.
And for him to say this is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced, that says a lot. It says a lot about Montreal.
Pierre, if you take a look at the way the Canadiens pay their players, Nick Suzuki, prior to the trade acquisition of Patrik Laine, was the highest paid player in the Montreal Canadiens. Cole Caufield signed a big deal just under Nick Suzuki. Juraj Slafkovsky signed a big deal just under Cole Caufield. When the Canadiens went out and they acquired Patrik Laine, his $8.7 million per year cap hit for this year and next year obviously was a contract given by another team. When his contract is up next year, Pierre, let's just say that Patrik Laine is able to avoid injury. He's healthy. He's happy here. And what we've seen here in the last couple of weeks is what we'll continue to see for the rest of this season and even into next season. Would you be scared making him the highest paid player on your team on a contract given by Kent Hughes?
No, I would not. And I'll tell you another thing. He's not 30 years old. He's 25 or 26. He's a kid still. Here's the thing that concerns me for Canadian-based teams. And I think, Max, you've experienced it because you played in Montreal and you played in Vancouver on the Canadian side of the border teams. If the dollar goes to 50 cents, I don't know where the cap's going. I'm just telling you guys the truth. And nobody's talking about that right now. So I think it's early to talk about a player's contract, but I would not be afraid to sign that player to the highest contract number on the team. I would not, because the other players know he can produce. Max, you know how it works in the room. Yeah. If a guy can't produce, he's getting big numbers, guys get mad. But if the guy can produce, he's getting big dollars, they don't care.
Max, exactly. Kent Hughes acquired Patrik Laine at age 26. He'll turn 27 in mid-April in return for Jordan Harris and a second-round pick. I mean, you remember the Kovalev deal for Joseph Ballet? Mm-hmm. This was the Kovalev deal all over again, revisited. Now, Kovalev left after a couple of seasons because Ottawa gave him a few more bucks, and then Kovalev went on to say after that he regretted walking away from the Canadiens because he was happy in Montreal. He was producing in Montreal, and he ended up saying that, you know what, for a few more dollars, he should never have left. I get Kovalev to talk to Laine at one point to say, hey, by the way, you know what? I loved Montreal like you're loving it right now. I embraced it like you have embraced it too. I produced there, and you know what? When you get to free agency, you better think twice about chasing the money if somebody's going to offer you more than Montreal, because sometimes you're just better off staying where you're comfortable.
Yeah, but you know what, Tony and Pierre, you know what's funny about hockey is it's tough to manage a dressing room as a coach and as a GM when you have bad players, but I think it's even tougher when you get more and more good players. And we're going to face that in the next 2 years, I think, in Montreal, because you're looking at it right now. You got the power play. You got Hudson, Caufield, Laine, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky. Next year, you got Demidov. Let's say this kid is as sick as everyone is expecting, and is supposed to be on the first power play. Who's off? Who's off the first power play?
It's a good question. You know what? Nobody knows, but it's a great question. It's fair.
Yeah.
So then you're gonna have a guy like Caufield who's gonna say, "Well, I'm not in my normal spot, and I'm not scoring as much." And you're gonna have Laine who's supposed to stay there. It's his contract here. So this is when you need to manage and have a good bunch of veterans inside the dressing room, because it can go downhill pretty quickly, even if right now we're not thinking about playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah, let's get to some of our sponsors if we can, and want to give a shout out to Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. Please play responsibly. And of course, Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider, driven to be different. They serve all of North America. They are a top fleet transport employer by Forbes all across Canada. They are a really, really amazing company. Guys, I hate to do this because, of course, the Canadiens won big tonight. I mean, I think the good news is that there's been so much pressure on their second line to score goals at 5-on-5 that tonight, the fact that they didn't score, it didn't matter, right? Because they obviously scored 6. Their power play won them the hockey game tonight. Patrik Laine won them the hockey game, and they also won because the Sabres are terrible. But that line of Dach, Newhook, and Laine did not produce 5-on-5, and they finished the night -1 apiece because they were on the ice for the Buffalo goal by Dylan Cousins. Pierre, they've tried to change up the line, and they obviously took Slavkovsky off the line, and they put him on the first line. They took Newhook off the first line. They put him on that line, and they've added Newhook there to bring some speed to that line. And Marty St. Louis talked about it because we saw that the line was missing speed. They didn't score tonight, and Kirby Dach, guys, geez, I hate to go back to him, but he left himself vulnerable again tonight on a couple of occasions where he was hit, and on a couple of occasions I thought he was hurt. He actually left to go to the locker room at one point. He was hit by Samuelson, if memory serves me well, but he's and I've said this, and it's with all due respect to Kirby, but if you didn't know his background, if you didn't know the hype, or when he was drafted, if you didn't know that he was drafted 3rd overall, if you didn't know the Canadiens acquired him, and you would just come down and say, who are the Canadian centermen? Okay, well, Suzuki's a centerman, Dvorak's a centerman, Newhook's a centerman, Evans a centerman, Dach's a centerman. He's not in your lineup right now, guys.
No, this is tough to digest. They didn't bring him here to be a second line right winger. They brought him here to be a second line center and insulate Nick Suzuki and do a lot of grinding. That hasn't happened. I'm going to ask Max this question because Max was a guy that hit people. It's a predatory situation, but I'll tell you one thing right now. Samuelson saw he wasn't ready to be hit, and he just said, "I'm taking it." You were good at that. You were really good at that, and I can't believe he wasn't prepared for the hit. I was shocked by it, honestly.
No, I think what you're saying is so right, and it goes with the way he's playing the whole game. I feel like and don't get me wrong, like every NHL player gets there because they do something right and they have the right attitude and work ethic or whatever. But right now, it's pound hockey for him. Like I don't care what people are saying, like about give him time. He was hurt. It's been a few games we're playing this year. Like it's not like just like 2 games back in training camp. Like it's been a long time now. And Pierre, Tony as well. Like when you get the okay to play in the NHL, you've been checked by 50 people, and the whole league is approving that you're coming back. Like he's ready to play. But at one point, like is he an NHL player? Not an NHL player, but is he a top 2 line NHL player? Like is he in the right spot? Is he a center? Is he a winger? Like I just feel like it's time for a reset for him, and it doesn't mean to be punished, but it's time to go sit in the stands, think about what I can do better, see the game from a different angle, take a little bit of pressure off, and then if you don't press the reset button, it's going to be the same day every day. Like it's
Pierre, some watching right now, whether it's YouTube Live or Facebook Live, are probably saying, he was in the press box all of last year to watch from above. And I understand what Max is getting at. It's not about, he's basically saying he's got to reset, take some of the pressure off him, give him a breather. Let's see how he comes back. Let's see how he bounces back. Pierre, would you do that in Kirby Dach's case at one point here? Because it almost seems like they're playing him to protect them, but in the end, by playing him, they're actually exposing him and they're not protecting him.
One of the best lines I ever heard was from Bob Johnson. He said, sometimes you got to save the player from himself. And there's nothing wrong with sitting upstairs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's happened to a lot of really good players. He needs a reset. Max Lapierre nailed that. I watched Kirby Dach when he was a kid playing in Saskatoon. He was a really good player.
Yeah.
I watched him play in Chicago, learning from Patrik Laine and Duncan Keith and Jonathan Toews. He was really good. What set him back big time, World Junior in Edmonton, he breaks his wrist. And I'm telling you right now, he's never been the same guy since. For whatever reason, he got hit in the neutral zone. He's never been the same player since. And so I understand what Montreal's trying to do, but what Max said is really smart. You're not hurting the player's feelings. You're telling them, here's why we're doing this. We want to help you. We don't want to hurt you. Sometimes the coach has to save the player from himself.
Pierre, put you on the spot here, but you're a big boy. I know you can take it. Obviously, the Canadiens felt that Kirby Dach was going to be the guy to insulate Nick Suzuki, like you just mentioned, on the second line. They made a trade for him. They gave up a couple of picks, and Alex Romanov ended up on Long Island with the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the fact that Kirby Dach had his troubles in Chicago before being acquired by the Canadiens. If the Canadiens are still going to wait and wait and wait on Kirby Dach for him to be that number 2 guy, my question to you is, do you think he ever will be?
I think he can be, yes, and I'll tell you why. They're not pressed, and Max would know this because he's been in dressing rooms on playoff teams and non-playoff teams. They're not in a position right now where playoffs are apparent. So I think they have a runway to develop this player, and that's why I agreed with Max's point. Because what Max said resonates with players in particular. If he goes upstairs and they treat him the proper way, he can learn and get better. One of the things, and Max, you tell me what you think, but I'm going to tell you, one of the things that bothers me about him, he goes to engage physically, and he goes down more than he knocks the other guy down.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's troublesome when you're as big as he is.
This is the part that worries me about his game, and I agree with you to a certain level that he has everything to be a second line center or a second line player at one point if we have time to put time on him. But I'm worried about his simple skills. Everything that comes, like when a player comes back from an injury, you see like a progression, like he's winning one-on-one battles, he's playing a little better defensively, he starts to skate better, wins some faceoffs once in a while, has a good shot on net. Right now, it's tough to get a scoring chance. We're not even close to the point of, okay, he's going to be fine one day. I want to see something next game, a little 1% better, maybe. I don't see that. This is the part that worries me.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's not ready, but can you at least give a sign that, okay, like he's going to be good when everything clicks together, and I don't see that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I mean, I know it's hard to put an age because guys develop at different paces, at a different pace, and I understand all of that. But he's going to be 24 next month. It's not old by any means. But look at Dylan Strome, who was signed as an unrestricted free agent by Washington 1 week after the Canadiens traded for Kirby Dach. Dylan Strome was drafted by the Arizona Coyotes, also a 6'3" centerman. Drafted 3rd overall in 2015. At age 21, Dylan Strome was better than Kirby Dach is 1 month away from his 24th birthday. At age 21, he was already better. So, Pierre, is there, and I know you said they have time on their hands because they're in a rebuild and they're not forced to make the playoffs, but I'm going to give you a hypothetical here, okay?
Yep.
They finish the year, they give them time, all right? When all is said and done, the Canadiens missed the playoffs, but they were in the mix. They played some meaningful games in the month of March, okay? But they missed the playoffs. In the offseason, they say to themselves, okay, guys, we got what we wanted. We were in the mix, but next year, we need to make the playoffs. We want to make the playoffs. Do they say, we're going to start next season with Kirby Dach this offseason? Or do they say, okay, we need a second line centerman in here because we cannot chance going with Kirby Dach. So let's just say, Pierre, that Dach is unable to bounce back this year. You get to the offseason. Gordon and Hughes have a decision to make if they think their team's going to be a playoff team next year. Because if they think they don't and they're still rebuilt, that's okay. You could still keep them there for another year. But what if they say, okay, we need to make the playoffs next year? What then?
Well, I think you got to evaluate any roster potential. I think if he doesn't produce by the end of the year, to what Max has been saying and kind of what I've been saying and what you just said, then you look to make yourself better. I don't know what's going to be available at the end of the year. Nobody knows at this point, but I'll tell you one thing right now. They have some runway left with this player because I think they've obviously internally understood where their roster is right now. If they had huge expectations, I'll give you an example. If the Montreal Canadiens were the New York Rangers right now, I think Kirby Dach would be traded. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
But the expectation in New York is way different than the expectation in Montreal this year. It's way different.
It's tough to analyze as well because of the situation with Laine. You know, like when they did the rebuild in New York and Panarin arrived, I feel like everything went faster. And right now, if you look at the way Laine is scoring goals, obviously they're not the same players at all, and I'm not comparing, but he still brings something pretty important, and he brings the superstar type of player within the dressing room. So why would Laine be on the team, or why did we get Laine and we wouldn't take the next step and get another guy like Laine? That's what I'm asking myself every day.
But so here's one thing I know: when you're going through a rebuild and you're in a market like Montreal, you better have something that can stimulate the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
And the one thing you have with Patrik Laine, every single game now, you see it. He's a threat to score. People want to see goals.
Yeah.
As much as you and I like block shots and we like big hits because we're kind of the same, people still want to see big goals. And Laine gives you that. Kirby Dach hasn't given you that yet. He has not. He has not given you that yet.
Nick Suzuki, 10 of 17 in the faceoff circle tonight for 59%. Mike Matheson played 24-40. He had 5 shots on goal. 5 shots on goal as well for Patrik Laine. Laine, 3 goals on 5 shots. Caufield, 2 assists. Suzuki, 2 assists. Anderson, Slavkovsky, and Armia had a goal. Hudson had the 2 assists. Cole Caufield. Max, you that played, and like, when Patrik Laine scores, Cole Caufield, and I want to preface this by saying that Cole Caufield has a bigger smile on his face than Laine does, all right? He looks like he's the happiest guy in the world. But at one point, how do you think Cole feels that Patrik Laine's got his spot? He's in his office now on the power play. Patrik Laine's the goal scorer on this team. In a sense, it obviously takes pressure off of him to, and he'll probably get some opportunities because of it. But I'd love to get your answer to that question, Max, and then follow that up with Pierre's answer.
I just think he seemed like a great teammate. I don't know him personally, but I don't think he cares. And this is when it's important to manage your players the right way. He's got a long-term contract. It definitely changes something when you go on the power play and you're not where you want to be. You at least got your security for life with a great contract. So if you're on a 1-year deal, though, and both of the players are, I can guarantee you it's not the same smile after a goal. Definitely there's something that's going to change. But if the management did a good job, they got a good contract for him. And I think one thing people like they don't see on during the games is Cole Caufield is a great passer. So I'm pretty sure like in the next 10-20 games he's going to find a way to be the guy that feeds Patrik Laine or Suzuki or Hudson. He's a great passer.
So, Pierre, as you know, in previous shows, we've had some people that have been watching us, whether it's on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, tell us, you know what? I don't like the long-term deals. I like the hybrid deals. And you've been a big proponent of the long-term deals. And you said nowadays, when you've made up your mind on a player, you have to give them that long-term deal and secure them and have them with your organization as long as you can. Here's an example when having a player on a long-term deal is beneficial because, like Max says, Cole's happy every time other people are scoring the goals. He's got the security. He still wants to score them himself. He's a proud guy. He's going to continue scoring goals. But the fact that Laine's scoring now, Cole's on a long-term deal. He's okay. If he would have had 1 year left on his deal, he probably would want to be in that office instead of Patrik Laine. But because he doesn't, he's got that long-term deal, he's okay with it.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. What Max said is a really relevant point. The other part is I do know Cole Caufield. I watched him with the National Team Development Program in the United States. I watched him play at the University of Wisconsin. I watched him win a Hobie Baker at the University of Wisconsin. He's a team guy. He's not a me guy. He's a team guy, and he's a really good teammate. And I think that's genuine. When you see him make those assists or see Patrik Laine score and he's so happy, he really is legitimately happy. He's not putting it on for the camera. So, no, I think he's a really good person, an honorable guy. I know how proud he is to be a Montreal Canadian. One of the coolest things, Tony and Max, I can tell you, when they had the Hall of Fame induction, and it was obviously for Shea Weber, I was there. I'm on the committee. And I talked to a bunch of the Montreal Canadiens players, and what blew me away, Suzuki, Gallagher, Weber, Paulie Byron was there. They didn't talk so much about Shea. They talked about how proud they were to represent the Montreal Canadiens. And I think Cole Caufield's the same thing. I really do. And Max, you played there. When you wear that CH, it matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah.
100%, and not every player understands that. We're lucky that one of our star player understands that.
Guys, you know what I liked about this win tonight? Obviously, what I liked is if you take a look at the month of December, I think logic has prevailed, right? The Canadiens played on December 1st in Boston after having played the day before in New York versus the Rangers. They lost that game versus the Rangers. So now you start the month of December in Boston, 2 games in 24 hours, and you're in tough, some travel included, and they lose that game versus the Bruins. They come back home, they play the Islanders, a winnable game, they win it. A couple of days later, they play the Predators, winnable game, they win it. A couple of days later, they have Washington here at home. Washington's the better team. Washington beats the Canadiens. A couple of days after that, the Canadiens have Anaheim at home, winnable game, the Canadiens win it. Winnable game versus Pittsburgh a couple of days later, and unfortunately, that was a big bump in the road for the Canadiens. They lose that one, and they lose it big. They go to Winnipeg. Most people are expecting them to lose. They actually outscore Winnipeg 5-on-5, but they do end up losing the game in Winnipeg by a score of 4-2. Tonight, Friday in Detroit, Saturday versus Detroit in Montreal, and Monday the 23rd, they're in Columbus. Those are 4 winnable games versus Eastern Conference teams where you cannot drop 1 point. You got to win your games in regulation. And tonight, they won their first out of 4. Pierre, they lose tonight versus Buffalo. It's at that point, obviously, you're not putting chances on your side to being a mixed team anytime soon.
No, 100%. It's kind of like what happened with the Rangers tonight. Rangers go to Nashville. They lose 2-0. Their next game's Friday night in Dallas. They're in a world of hurt. They are spinning out of control. And Montreal, if they lose tonight to Buffalo, I don't care about the 2 games with Detroit because Detroit has to win those 2 games. So they had to win tonight, and they did. And they put on a good show. They did.
Pierre, you talk about New York. We know that market, and we know that there's a lot of pressure there. Based on some reports that are filtering out, the players had a players-only meeting, and it seems like they're upset with their general manager. I don't know how important Trouba was to that locker room or not. I would imagine he was pretty important. I mean, the guy had a letter on his jersey. But if that market has so much pressure, if you're another GM in the league, Pierre, would you call the Rangers because you can smell desperation?
The only thing I'm concerned about, I never put a name out because I can't believe how much leaking is going on out in New York. I can't believe the leaking. So I might call them, but I would never tell them a player that I would trade for my team. The leaking that's going on in New York is part of why they have this problem. We saw what happened with Trouba last summer. That was bad. But what happened with Zibanejad and with Kreider recently, and even Adams Fox's name being out there, that's a leak from above. Nobody should be doing that.
I even heard Lafreniere's name. I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, Maxie, what do you think of that? I'd love to hear what a player perspective is.
Well, two things. First, you're so right. Like, I don't understand why the info is leaking everywhere like this. This is weird, and it's for me.
Pardon me, Max. Because, like Pierre just said, someone in that organization is picking up the phone and calling Larry Brooks of the New York Post. That's why.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's crazy. Anyway, but for as a player, it's not supposed to. Like what does it matter if there's problems with the GM or problems with a guy who got traded? You got a job to do. It doesn't it's like there's two ways to see your day as a hockey player. There's the team game and there's your career personally. And if you play like shit on the ice, sorry my language, but if you play like shit on the ice, you're ruining your own career. So why don't you just show up and play hockey? They have a good hockey team. Doesn't matter who the coach is, who the GM is, what's going on in the media. You have a job to do. You said it earlier, Pierre, at the beginning of the show. This is the NHL. Nobody cares how you're feeling, right?
Capo Caco threw Peter Laviolette under the bus. He says, by the way, it's easy to sit on a young player, and you know what? I'm not the player who's playing the worst right now, but I'm the player who's sitting out. So
I don't get it. I don't get it, but I was glad Max talked about the league. Like, I'll tell you one thing. Again, I remember as a young guy in this business, if you ever leaked, that was grounds for firing. I'm telling you right now, like, it was a big deal back in the day if you were leaking. And I don't know how this all started in New York, but somebody's leaking bad there, and it's not right. It's just not appropriate.
Guys, we're going to get some questions for Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre. We're close to 2,000 live on the YouTube, guys, which is a pretty decent number, and we thank everyone for watching. We appreciate it. I think we have a hell of a first line tonight with us three bringing you Habs post-game coverage, if I can say so in all humility. Pierre, I want to ask you this. Kent Hughes and Vinny Lecavalier were in Russia earlier today to meet with Ivan Demidov. And, the head coach of SKA, Rodenberg, said, "We are always happy when guests come to us. Today they were at the arena, which is rightfully considered the best in the world. When I was at the arena in Montreal 20 years ago, at that time it was the best in the world, and today the best is in St. Petersburg. They watched our game. We will definitely compare the style of play of our team and NHL teams. We always exchange experiences. We will definitely discuss how Ivan is developing, adding and how to improve his implementation. Ivan also had some good scoring chances today. Sometimes he was looking for an extra pass. With a team like Lokomotiv, it's better not to look for an extra pass, but to take responsibility for it. We'll discuss that. People showed respect by flying to us. They flew around the world. We will have negotiations tomorrow." What do you make of this visit, Pierre?
I think it's tremendous. Being proactive is smart. That's what we used to do all the time. When we drafted Jaromir Jagr in 1990, 5th overall, we never let him go back home. Craig Patrik flew over to the Czech Republic. Back then it was Czechoslovakia, with a bag full of money, and gave it to them so that we could get Jaromir Jagr's rights. Being proactive with a player that you respect and want, there's nothing wrong with that. I respect the Canadiens for doing that, whether it's Vinny, whether it's Kent. The fact that they went over there and to get into Russia, and I don't know if Max, if you've been there or not, or Tony, if you've been there, but you got to get a visa. It's not like you can just buy a plane ticket and fly there. It's a hard thing to do. It's a little bit more convoluted. So good on the Canadiens for doing that. He's a real good player. I think he's got a brilliant future in Montreal. And I like what Max said before about the power play. He's going to cause some problems for some of the guys.
Good luck.
But what do they mean by we'll begin negotiations?
He shouldn't be saying that. That's just that something could have got lost in translation there. There's no negotiation that has to go on. No. At some point, if the Canadiens want him, they're going to get him. I mean, that's just how it's going to work.
I think it sounds great, like, to hope that it would come earlier, the better. But the reality is, and it's a question I'm asking you guys and myself, but are the Canadiens ready to receive this player or to have him on the team? Does he have the right sentiment to play with? Does he have somebody to live with? Like, we were seeing Andrei Markov on TV the other day, and I'm not saying he's the only guy that could do that job, but this kid, when he comes to Montreal, he absolutely needs to live with someone, with a veteran player. And if it possibly be a Russian player, that would be the best thing in the world. It won't be easy to adapt in the new market, even if he's the best player in the world and he's so skilled. And like, you need to be ready to receive this player. And I don't think right now they are, because the reality is, if this is the lineup right now, he's playing with Kirby Dach next year or whenever he comes. This is not who he needs to play with right now.
Tony, to Max's point, one of the things that really helped Evgeny Malkin early in his career, he lived at Sergei Gonchar's house.
Yeah.
And Gonchar taught him how to, actually it was Gonchar's daughter, taught him how to speak English. When I was coaching in Pittsburgh, Jaromir Jagr wasn't on our first power play, just to the point you made before. We brought in Yuri Hrdina, who's one of the most respected Czech players of all time. We brought him in from Calgary after we won a cup in '89 to work with Jaromir and explain to him in his native language what was going on. So to Max's point, that's 100% correct. You know, and the Canadiens took a real good player, third overall, I believe, and he wasn't living with any family. And he never got to the level he should have got to. And I'm not going to say any names. I think you guys know who I mean.
No, but I understand. But it's easy. I mean, the Canadiens can have Demidov live with Sergachev. Oh, wait.
No, don't even go there.
Oh, wait.
Don't even go there.
It's fine. It's fine. Kachuk is going to take good care of him.
Hey, why don't we take some calls at 1-888-585-SICK, 1-888-585-7425. Look at this, 11 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun, but let's get to these calls. We are going to, let's see if we can put the name up right now. Hello, who's this?
You're having fun, but
is it Jacob?
Yep.
Jacob, there's a little bit of a delay, obviously, so if you could just put the volume down. Go ahead. You're on with Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre.
All right. There's a little bit of a delay, obviously, so if you could just
Jacob, put the volume down.
All right. All right. I didn't recognize it was you, Tony. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, good game. Hey?
I think so. 6-1, yes.
Yeah, Patrik Laine is quite the shooter, eh? Wow. I've been a Habs fan for, 7 or 8 years now. I'm 17 years old. In fact, I turned 17 today.
Oh, good for you. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you very much. By the way, for my birthday gift, actually, my mom, she ordered a Is This a Joke t-shirt.
Oh, very, very nice. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for supporting Sick Attire. Thanks so much. Who's your favorite player in the Canadiens?
Well, I really like Nick Suzuki. I just think I love smart players. I've always liked smaller, smart players. Even though I'm a bigger player, like I play hockey and minor hockey, I'm a bigger player. I'm a defenseman actually, but I've always liked smaller, skilled players. Like I used to love Paul Byron when he was here.
He was all heart. I like Paul Byron. He was all heart. Yeah. It's a great story of perseverance and determination, Paul Byron's story. Thanks so much for the phone call. Appreciate it. Back to the phone lines at 1-888-585-SICK. And you can also ask Pierre or ask Max anything you want. We could take some questions as well. And we will go back. Are we going back to the phone lines? Sammy and Yellow, just let me know when we have someone. Let's go to Chris. Hello, Chris.
How's it going tonight, gentlemen?
We're doing extremely well. You have a chance to talk to Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre.
How's it going tonight, gentlemen? Good?
Very well, Chris. Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
I was actually calling in to give our friend Lapierre a little bit of the gears.
Why? What did he do to you?
I was always a Max fan. I used to love them pearly whites going around the ice, buzzing, just giving us a lot of energy. I'm a longtime Habs fan. And I know that he mentioned last year about Josh Anderson, like get rid of him. I'm a Josh Anderson fan too, and I kind of found it a little bit surprising that Max wasn't. But he actually said tonight that he's liking Josh out there, and I know Laine had a hat-trick tonight, which is great. He's dynamite. But I just wanted to get his opinion on Josh Anderson being a similar type player, energy type player. What are you feeling? What are you feeling about Josh now?
I would still trade him, if that can answer your question. I like him in his new role, and he's doing a great job. But what I'm expecting from him is definitely not being a third or fourth liner. So if he has more value now, I would get rid of his contract 100%.
Really?
Listen, Chris. To Max's defense, who thought that Josh Anderson had a good year last year? No one. You want to know why? Because he had a terrible year last year. And this year, he doesn't have the pressure of being on the top two lines because he's shown that he has not been able to respond to be a top two line player. So they have him on the third line in a limited role. and he's showing up, and he's working, and he's being a lot more consistent.
Yeah,
But when the Canadiens acquired him, they acquired him thinking that they were going to get the Josh Anderson who scored 27 goals in Columbus 5.5 years ago.
But Tony, if I can add something, like we've been talking a lot about the players we have right now and the rebuild, but the reality is I think our standard are pretty low right now because of the situation we're in. Like the team culture for me, we got to stop just going down to now we're happy he's working. Like it's Pierre said it. It's the NHL. It's okay that he's got, and I'm proud of him, and I obviously like his season better this year than last year. But the reality is, we cannot just be happy because a guy plays better. This is the NHL. Just working hard and getting better on the PK. When you make that salary, it's not good enough. He's better this year, but it's still not good enough.
Thank you, Chris, for the phone call. Pierre?
I'm with Max, by the way, and I want to commend Max too, because I do know that he took a hard stand last year. That's hard to do as a broadcaster, because you have to stand up and you have to take the arrows that come if the guy turns out to be good. And Max actually owned up to it before the show started when we were talking. So that says a lot about the way he carries himself as a broadcaster and as a person. Look, if I were in the charge of the team right now, I'd probably look at trading him too, to be totally fair. Just because you got to dump that money. It's a lot of money to pay a player that's not going to be a 30-goal scorer or 25-goal scorer.
Let's go to Terry. Terry,
Hello.
You're on with Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre. Go ahead.
All right, I got a good question. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I listened to Scott Gomez. Good habit. Loved him in Montreal. But this question relates to Max, and he talked about him and Camilleri getting in a little scuffle. I don't know. I just want to hear his side. If he wants to, if he not, I could ask a less spicy question.
What story did Gomer say? Which one was it?
Which one? Oh, there's multiple. Okay, well, the one I heard, bada bing, bada boom, was you guys were about to get in each other's face and about to throw down, and then the press came in.
So Max, I'm sorry. Like I honestly, I don't remember, but I'll try to think about it. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm not shy or anything, but there's so many stories going like during a season in the dressing room. Like it's.
Well, it was with Camilleri. Gomez says he just entered the team, and you know what I mean. But I mean, like, if it's too spicy, I could ask you something less.
No, it's not spicy. If Max remembered, he would tell us, right? So you don't remember getting into a beef with Camilleri?
Me? No.
All right.
I'll give you. Hey, you want a Max Lapierre story? I'll give you a good Max Lapierre story.
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
broadcasting the Stanley Cup final between the Boston Bruins and the Vancouver Canucks, and Brad Marchand and Max Lapierre during a TV timeout started yelling and screaming at each other. And I looked at Mark Recchi, who I used to coach, and I said, would you tell him to shut up, and I'll tell the other guy to calm down too, because all their stuff was going on the air, and I didn't want people to get grossed out. So I think Max remembers what I'm talking about.
No, the best that's a great story, but the best Max Lapierre story was didn't you say something to the Sedins? Was that you?
Yes, that was me, but Tony, I said so much stuff. If Pierre was between the benches, I said like anything to survive in the NHL. I was talking about having two personalities. Well, I had to go to my option B pretty quickly during a game.
No, but so who were you playing with, Max, when you said something to, I think, Daniel Sedin? You said something to him.
It was either St. Louis or Pittsburgh, but I just the
So
old
you're-
classic. Your brother is ugly.
That's a good one. Let's go to Stefan. Stefan, are you there?
Okay.
Stefan, thanks for calling the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro, and you're on with Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre. We're talking Habs. Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, guys.
Hi, Steph.
I have a question for Pierre, if it's okay. If my memory serves me well, because I've watched quite a lot of tapes on Demidov. I've seen him play on the left wing, on the right wing, and as a centerman. Can he be a solution for the second line as a centerman?
I don't think so. I haven't seen that defensive part of his game. Remember, he's playing on bigger ice, but I see him more as a winger, a scoring winger. I don't see him as much as a guy that's going to be able to dominate in the middle. Max played center. He can tell you it's so hard to play in your own zone as a centerman. I know a lot of teams play man-to-man now, so it's a little bit different, but still the centermen are so important. I don't see him being that guy. I see him being more of a scorer than a guy that can play the 200-foot game.
Yeah, but what do you think about his IQ?
His IQ offensively is off the charts.
His ability to distribute the puck.
Yeah. No, Stefan, his offensive IQ is off the charts. That's not the issue. The issue is playing deep in his own zone. And Max, I'd like for you to tell Steph how hard that is to do.
But it's pretty hard, and it changes your whole way to see the game. And in Demidov's type of game he has, and obviously he's got great speed, he's creative, hockey IQ offensively is phenomenal. But the thing you cannot forget is he always gets the puck when he's full speed. That's one thing you cannot do when you're a centerman. When you're a center, you always start from zero, and that's you already burned 50% of your energy before you go play in the other zone. So I don't think that would advantage this kid.
Based on the highlights we're seeing, Max, he's deadly on the counter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's his thing.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the phone lines at 1-888-585-SICK. Let's go to Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Tony.
How are you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm doing very, very good.
Great. You have a chance to talk to Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre. Say hello.
Yeah, that's awesome, guys.
Hey, man.
Hi, Nick.
I have a question. For me, the Vancouver Canucks rebuild was done when they traded Horvat. At what point, at which point do you believe you need to add by trading a player like that?
You want to go first, Max?
The question is, at what point you need to trade a player like that?
Yeah, to trade one of your good players because you think he's hurting your progress there.
I think you need to trade when you do a big move like that. I think it needs to be when you feel like it doesn't fit with the team identity. I think you're towards the years you're building something, and I feel like it's okay. And I feel this is the mistake Ottawa and Buffalo have made, is that at one point you need to look back and say, okay, do the players we had in mind at the beginning still fit in that group? And it's okay to let somebody go if the move is to improve the team. And that doesn't mean the player is not good. That might just he's taking ice time from someone else that's going to help you more, or someone else that helps the team more. And sometimes you see a star player that doesn't fit well in a team, and he arrives on another team and he's just on the first time dominating. So for me, it's all about the team picture. Doesn't matter how good or bad the player is. Is the player fitting in the new mentality?
So I'm going to take it one step further, Nick, and I'll just tell you that knowing Rick Tocchet and having coached him, he probably had a lot of talks with Jimmy Rutherford, and I would say that he said to him, we can go here with this player, but we can't go past this point. We need to take another step. So we need to move this player out if we're going to take the next step. And that's usually the way a lot of those deals happen when you're going through a rebuild. Guys understand, okay, at some point we got to move on from that player. We need to upgrade. And that's not a knock on Bo at all. Bo's a good player. I don't think he fit in the up-tempo game that they wanted to play in Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate your phone call. We're going to take a couple more. We have to say we've gone a little bit overtime here. We'll take some questions as well. If you don't, we'll take some questions as well as some calls. But I say that, and Michael has jumped on a line. Michael, hello.
Ciao, Antonio.
Hello, Michael. You're on with Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre.
Good evening, Pierre.
Good evening, sir.
Ciao. Come stai? Tutto bene?
Tutto bene. Dico la verità. I'm from Vancouver, but I listen to this gentleman every day almost.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Michael, if I can, and I appreciate you calling in. I just want to let you know, though, before Max says anything, you know where Max picked up his Italian, right?
He picked it up probably at an Italian restaurant somewhere in Vancouver.
No, Max will tell you that he picked it up when he played in Lugano.
Yeah, 5 years in Lugano.
Probably. Veramente, Maximilian.
Go ahead, Michael.
Look, I don't want to make this too long because it's been talked about over the last few days on all kinds of media, but I want to talk about Kirby Dach. And everybody's saying, well, if he can be a second line center, we should probably consider trading him, blah, blah, blah. We paid almost nothing for this kid. Martin Saint Louis was hired to give him, give him the legs and give him the support that he needs. And this kid will take off. And at the end of the day, if he ends up to be a third line centerman, so be it. Like, the kid is liked by his teammates. Like, I don't know why people keep harping on this kid. I don't get it.
Well, but hold on a second. You're saying that they gave up nothing for him? They gave up a 13th. They gave up a 13th pick overall. They gave up a third-round pick, and they gave Romanov to the Islanders.
I appreciate that, but sometimes nothing is solid. So, in other words, he may have been, pinned as a second or even first.
Okay,
you may develop into this in the future, but
I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you a question then instead of commenting on that one. What do you like about his game?
Well, at the moment, not very much. I have to tell you.
Okay, second question. What do you see in his game that will make him a good third line player?
Well, what attracts me to him is two things: is his size and the likeness that the teammates have for him, and the desire for the coach to work with him. Those are the 3 points. Because you're right. I mean, if we look at this year, to be honest, Maxim, on n'a rien à se donner, là, franchement.
Yeah, but if Kirby Dach ends up being a third-line centerman on the Montreal Canadiens, you don't need him. He doesn't fit the third-line center role. He's not a defensively responsible player. He's not a good 200-foot player, and he's bad in the face-off circle. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Yeah, but correct. But let me just add to your comment. We talked about Josh last year, and he turned out to be a good defensive player this year. We expected him to be north-south and going to the net and scoring goals. He didn't. But guess what? This year he's playing within his talent. And we're happy with him. So
no, we're happy. We're happy that he's trying a lot more than a year ago, and that he's more consistent than he was a year ago. But you can't be happy with Josh Anderson making $5.5 million, who scored 27 goals in Columbus 5.5 years ago, who's playing on your third line in Montreal. You can't be happy with that. You're happy with that?
Not. No, I am not. But
so I'll say this, and I appreciate your phone call, that the Canadiens gave up a 13th pick overall, a 66th pick overall, and Romanov to the Islanders to acquire Kirby Dach, so that Kirby Dach could be the second-line centerman behind Suzuki. And by the way, when they made the deal, some people in the organization, and Marty St. Louis himself said that he thought that of all the Canadiens forwards, that Kirby Dach had the highest ceiling. If Kirby Dach ends up being a third liner on the Montreal Canadiens, well, then it's a fail.
I agree. No, I agree. But look at Lars Eller. He's still in the league. We expected so much of him, but he's pretty decent over
We're not talking about the same work.
No. Michael, I got to respectfully tell you, don't bring Lars Eller's name into that. Don't even try to do that. That's not even a fair fight. So what I'm going to tell you right now is the Montreal Canadiens have 2 players coming that are going to be better than Kirby Dach. One is Owen Beck, and the other one is Michael Hayes. So please, I'm just telling you, I like Kirby Dach too. But if he can't be your second center, he's not playing in your 3-hole. I'm just telling you. He's going to be making too much money.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And
thank you. All right,
Thanks,
okay.
Michael.
Wow. Do we have any questions? Roger, we have more calls. It seems like the lines are blazing, guys. Based on our internal chat here, it looks like if we get to all of our calls that we have on hold right now, we should probably get off by about 1:30 in the morning. Roger. Hello, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
How's it going?
We're doing well. Thank you for your call.
Okay, I got a question for the 3 of you. I got a question for each of you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
First one, Tony, is for you. To my understanding, Primo is going to be playing in Detroit. If it's a blowout, Do they send him to Laval? Question for Pierre. Pierre, with the talk that's coming out of New York, if any of it is true, would you, if you were Kent Hughes, would you make a call to see about acquiring Kako or Lafreniere if they were available? And the question for Max is, why is Mike Matheson and Hudson playing, the two offensive defensemen playing on the same line? And would you have Mike Matheson playing on the PK?
So I'll start. I would imagine that with the Canadiens playing in Detroit on Friday and then versus Detroit on Saturday in Montreal, that Caden Primo is probably going to get the start on Friday night, and that Samuel Montembeault is going to get the start on Saturday night. Primo, statistically, out of 80 goalies that have played in the National Hockey League this year, out of goalies that have played a minimum of 3 games, is statistically the worst goaltender in the National Hockey League from a save percentage standpoint and from a goals against average standpoint. The Canadiens have been patient, and I think they've been wanting to play Dobish as much as they can. He went down with an injury at one point. But if Caden Primo keeps on dropping the ball, he's not going to finish the season with the Montreal Canadiens, not in my opinion. Pierre, if Capo Kako is available and he's a healthy scratch, would you pursue that player?
No, I would not, but I'd pursue Alexis Lafreniere. I'll tell you that right now. I would pursue him, but I would not pursue Kako. No, I would not.
I don't know why the Rangers would want to make Lafreniere available unless, of course, he was the price to pay for a Brady Tkachuk. I mean, that's another story, but I don't think the Rangers are pressed to trade Alexis Lafreniere. Do you?
No, I do not.
No,
I do not. No.
His ceiling is, I think, for his age, his ceiling is way too high. And Max?
Yep. Well, on my side, you asked me why Madison with Hudson. Well, there's a few ways to look at it. First of all, I think you need to give Arbor Jacquard a fair chance of playing with a veteran. Mm-hmm. We normally forget how young he is, and because of his style of play, we think he's just going to be fine by himself. But I think Savard is kind of a good match for him. At one point, you need to help this kid as well. Then you got Goulet and Barron. Let's agree that you need your best defensive defenseman with Barron to give him a fair chance to try to create something offensively. And honestly, like at the beginning, I wasn't a big fan of it. When you think about it, Hudson and Madison, what do you need to help a defenseman that's creative offensively and is taking risk in the offensive zone? You need a guy that can skate to come back and back him up. So Madison is the perfect guy for this. And on the other side, in your defensive zone, Madison is a good skater, gets the puck out of there. So you don't want Hudson to play in his defensive zone all game. So you got the perfect guy to just get out of there and go have fun on the other side.
Thank you for the phone call, Roger. Very much appreciate it. I want to take this opportunity to wish a very happy birthday to Jacob, who's one of our listeners and one of our viewers. Thank you very much, Jacob, for supporting. Happy birthday to you. Pierre, well, we're going to take 5 questions now, guys, and then we'll call it a night, okay? 5 questions, no calls. That's it for the calls, 5 questions. But I want to start with one, Pierre. Nick Ehlers is set to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Nick Ehlers, of course, had some very good moments playing with Patrik Laine with the Winnipeg Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Should the Montreal Canadiens pursue this player?
I'd have interest in him. The only problem with Nick is he's not overly large, and I don't know how many small guys you want to have. You know, and Max was a big guy, and Max played a big game. He knows, like, it's hard to win in the playoffs with small guys. I don't care how skillful they are. Yeah. And Nick Ehlers is a skillful guy. He was a hell of a player in Halifax. Boy, oh boy, was he a good player.
Yeah.
But the truth is that he's not a big guy, Tony.
Yeah,
he's just not.
I know. I think he's listed at 6 foot, probably on skates, but he's. No. I don't even think he's a $180. Like he's not a big guy. You're right.
No.
All right. Okay. Questions. Dan. Hey, guys. Thanks for the great show. Question for you, Pierre. Do you think that Jacob Fowler and Lane Hudson can have a similar impact in their first 2 years?
100%. I'm bullish on obviously Jacob Fowler. I've watched him probably as much or more than any other player in college hockey. He's a superstar in the making. He really is. Now, could he get hurt and something happens? Yeah, it could, but I don't see that. The same characteristics that I saw in Marty Brodeur when he was 16 years old playing in Montreal Barassa, midget AAA are the same characteristics I see in Jacob Fowler. They're very, very similar characteristic-wise.
Isn't that something? Another question. Max, if you were a current Hab as a player, do you pull Kirby Dach aside and have a word with him?
100%. I would take him for a beer and just tell him, like, in my position right now, I want him to wake up. But as a teammate, I would have taken him for a beer and say, Bud, you got like all the skills in the world. You're a great player. You're big. Everybody loves you. Like, just like find your game. You'll be okay. Like, this is the type of speech I would tell a kid like that. Like, you don't want to just go and say, wake the fuck up. You can see he's looking for his game right now. Like that.
Yeah.
If you're the coach, it's a different speech. You need a little more. Like, can you work a little on your face-offs? Can you be a little better on your one-on-one battles? But as a teammate, you gotta try to help this guy find himself.
So as a teammate, Max, it's always positive reinforcement.
No.
If he had said yes, I was going to get mad.
On a case per case basis. Then,
but you got different type of personalities. You got young guys that come in there that are cocky and they think they own the rink and they think they're going to score 50 goals. Then these guys, you have a serious discussion. Dach right now he's down. Like it's not time to destroy him within the organization.
Very well said.
All right, another question. Simon Leblanc. What is the most need for the Habs right now? Right D or left center top six? Pierre?
I think they need a right D. I really do. And obviously, they're hoping Reinbacher can be that guy. Logan Mailloux can be that guy. But right now, they're not here. But I think long-term, they are going to be here, and that's going to be positive for the team. But right D is something they desperately need.
Two more. Vincent says, hello, gentlemen. Question, all six of Lining's goals. Slavkovsky has been buzzing around the net, making room and pushing D around. Can we start giving Slav some credit for some strong positional play?
Yeah, he's playing a better game. I think tonight was okay, but we need to understand with Slav, like he's a big young player and he's a complementary player. Like he needs to play with two great players to be effective. Like if he does all the work, because I pulled up some stats in the last week, like he has more hits per game than last year, and he wins exactly the same amount of battles, one-on-one battles. So when you do the same stuff and you don't have the same results, then obviously he needs to improve, but you need to start looking around. Like if you hit a guy, get the puck, pass the puck, and the guy loses the puck right away, like Kirby Dach was doing when he was playing with him, he's not effective anymore. He's a little bit of a victim of his draft year. Like he got drafted first overall, and everyone in the world always expects Sidney Crosby as a first pick overall, but this is not reality in hockey. He's a great third guy on the line to complete a smart player who is passing the puck to a goal scorer like Caufield. The other guy just has to do his job.
Last question.
Well said.
Demidov, a point per game in his first season. Pierre, it's a prediction. You want to make it?
Yeah. No, I'm prepared to say no.
Yeah. I'm prepared to say no, too. It's a big jump from the KHL to the National Hockey League, and a 19 years old to come in and be able to be a point-per-game player. That's pretty tough.
So I'll just tell you, I'll just give reference points. When Teemu Selanne came out of the Finnish Elite League, he was at another level. I'm just telling you, he was at another level. When Alexander McGillney came out of the Russian League, he was at another level. When Fedorov came, all these guys were at another level. Demidov's not at that point right now. I'm just telling you. Is he a good player? He's a really good player. But he's nowhere near where those guys were. Not even close.
No. Tony, if I can add a little something, like I played in every league in Europe, like the KHL is a different league. Like Swedish league is very structured, really well played defensively. Yeah. Finnish league is a little bit of the same way, but very physical. Switzerland is all about skating. KHL, man, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Nope.
Like the system, it's pretty tough over there. So it's gonna be a big change.
I agree.
So we'll finish off on Selanne, who entered the National Hockey League as a rookie at age 22. In his rookie season, he scored
76 goals.
76 goals and 132 points. That's a pretty awesome rookie season.
That's why I'm telling you, all these people say this guy's going to be I saw the Stars. I had to drop game plans to try to shut those Stars down. Like McGillney, when he played with him 11, LaFontaine, and Buffalo, bon chance trying to shut them down in the odd.
Yeah.
Come on. When Fedorov, there used to be a thing in Detroit. It's before Max got in the league. Are you better off with Fedorov compared to Yzerman? And that was the talk that would go around all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, this is how good these guys were. I don't think anybody's going to be saying that about Demidov his first year. I just don't. I don't think they will.
No, but I think he'll be in the Calder Trophy discussion.
That's different. That's different.
Yeah.
The guy that Montreal owns, and I'm telling you right now, it's a hard league. To Max's point, because I love what Max just said, because he's spot on that, is Michael Hayes. If you can ring up the points he's doing in the Big Ten, playing at Michigan on a rebuilding team, and they are a rebuilding team, that's an amazing performance. What that kid's putting up right now at Michigan is unbelievable. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing him in a Montreal Canadiens uniform one day, and we look forward to the Canadiens and the Red Wings on Friday night. We'll be back tomorrow night on the Sick Podcast. Same time, same place. My guest will be Craig Button, a regular collaborator every Wednesday. Pierre McGuire and Max Lapierre. This was absolutely outstanding tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pierre.
Maxie,
nice
thank
to see
you,
again.
Maxie.
Yeah, thanks,
See you,
Tony.
Maxie.
See you guys.
Good job.
Ciao, Max. Ciao, Pierre. All right, there you have it. Special thanks, of course, to all of our sponsors, and special thanks to Energy Transportation Group, to Playground, to Bittt Tibi, to Betway, and of course, special thanks to Restaurant Vago for sponsoring the McGuire Report. Special thanks to all of you. We had some great numbers tonight. I think we had an awesome Habs post-game show. Canadiens win by a score of 6-1, and everyone is happy because Patrik Laine scored a Hatrik, and the Canadiens have themselves an elite superstar goal scorer in his prime years, and they got him and a second-round draft pick in return for Jordan Harris. There's some trades that you remember for a long time. I think we're going to end up remembering this one for a while, hopefully for a very long time. And hopefully Patrik Laine will be a Montreal Canadien for a very, very long time. He whose contract is up at the end of next season. Once again, special thanks to all of you for watching. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple if you can. It's our way of feeling the love. I'm Marinaro. Habs win big. Laine scores a hat trick. Good night, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Lapierre.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.